If you're driven to make a difference, to have an impact, to grow your nonprofit to new heights, then the most important asset you need is a well-executed and scalable strategy. Hi, I'm Tom Kelly, your nonprofit catalyst. You may know me as the CEO of Charity Altruist and Donor Books, or the author of The $1 Million Nonprofit. What I help nonprofits achieve that gives them significant edge and a clear path to substantial growth is the ability to strategically fundraise and effectively engage their community. And that's what I'm going to share with you right here on the $1 Million Nonprofit Podcast. In each episode, I'm going to take you behind the scenes to reveal the strategies, techniques, and tactics of successful nonprofits so you can avoid common pitfalls and drive your organization forward. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Welcome to the $1 Million Nonprofit Podcast, your go-to resource for unlocking the secrets to nonprofit success. I'm your host, Tom Kelly from Charity Auctions Today, and I'm thrilled to introduce today's guest, Donald Summers. Donald is a visionary in the realm of social impact, serving as the founder and CEO of Altruist Partners, a renowned social impact advisory firm dedicated to accelerating the growth and impact of nonprofits and mission-driven organizations worldwide. With a proven track record of helping nonprofits and organizations overcome their toughest challenges, Donald's insights are invaluable for any nonprofit seeking to maximize their impact. As the author of the #1 new nonprofit release on Amazon, Scaling Altruism, a proven pathway for accelerating nonprofit growth and impact, Donald brings a wealth of knowledge and practical advice to the table. His expertise extends beyond the pages of his book, with research and essays featured in prestigious publications like the Stanford Social Innovation Review and the Chronicle of Higher Education. Get ready to be inspired and empowered as we welcome Donald Summers to the $1 Million Nonprofit Podcast. So, Donald Summers, thanks for joining us today on the $1 Million Nonprofit Podcast. It's exciting to have you here today.
Tom, thanks for having me on here. Excited to talk with you and share our work with your listeners.
Nice. Donald, let's start with what led you to start Altruist Partners and dive into the social impact consulting.
I'm very much like many people in the social sector in that I'm anxious about the state of the world, and I'm concerned about what our economic structure does, the damage that finance capitalism causes to people and the planet. And I was not a business person. I studied art and literature and religion, and I was a teacher for a long time. And it wasn't until I got into graduate school that I was becoming certified as a school principal. And they said, well, if you're going to run a school, you need to learn business, law, accounting, finance, and so forth. And I dreaded the idea of going into an accounting class. But when I took the stuff, I loved it. I had an epiphany. What powerful tools these are. This is how the world works. What if we could use these tools for good? That led me into a career as a fundraiser that I describe in my book, Scaling Altruism, that I used this business playbook that I picked up to raise money. And I didn't follow the typical path of fundraising. It was practiced in the nonprofit sector. Again, I used more of a private sector playbook. And I did this for over a decade, generating profound hockey sticks, coming into organizations and increasing the funding by 50, 100, 500, 1,000%. And with the consistency of that track record, I ended up getting a job in a foundation, right? Where we were giving money away, but we were giving away little tiny sums of money. And I said to my board, we don't need to give these organizations fish. We need to teach them how to fish. That's real high value here. My board didn't want to do that, so I quit. I took 2 of our grantees on as clients, earned them millions of dollars, and I've been doing it ever since.
Why do you think most organizations fail to scale when and they think small like that? What do you think their mindset is around thinking that way?
First of all, nonprofits are no different than for-profits or any other type of organization. As I write in the book, scaling anything is very hard. Only 4% of private sector businesses get over $1 million a year. It's just hard. People do not work well together as teams. To scale something, you have to create systems and get people to work together. And that kind of runs counter to human nature, unfortunately. Scaling anything is hard. Nonprofits have the additional challenge that finance capitalism and the tools of business are damaged brands in the nonprofit sector. Frederick Winslow Taylor invented business management, modern business management at the turn of the last century, and it was used to oppress people. And even today, many businesses are very oppressive, and they extract from their people and they create damage. And the nonprofit community is trying to fix that. And it's hard to use those same practices because people are suspicious of them. So we try to communicate, and I take great effort doing this whenever I speak, that finance capitalism and the tools of management are not immoral. They are amoral. These are powerful tools. They are used to create teams and solve hard problems, and you can direct those tools for good or for ill. So we encourage nonprofit thinkers and leaders to look outside of the nonprofit-only methodology, things like theory of change and logic models, and however we build teams. Those are often trying to reinvent in a different way other proven models that have been around for many decades. So when I started my consultancy, I said, let's look broadly. Let's look at every type of sector: public sector, private sector, nonprofit sector. What are the tools that help create teams? And that's what that's what we offer in the book and in our accelerator. Yeah, there's lots of barriers to adopting this. Many organizational leaders think they don't have the time to learn tools. There's, again, tainted brands. There's change. There's fear of risk. There's many barriers. The nonprofit leaders have it doubly hard. Scaling anything is hard, and accessing a more effective toolkit requires learning new skills, and that's hard as well.
What are some of the common challenges nonprofits face when scaling up? And how do you help them with your book or your accelerator to overcome some of these obstacles?
The biggest barrier nonprofits face is particularly small to mid-sized nonprofits. And I want to be clear, I'm addressing my book towards the small and mid-sized nonprofits under about $25 million a year. There's very large and successful nonprofits, hospitals, universities, legacy programs. Those are very sophisticated organizations. I want to help the small ones get bigger. Their barriers are many, but the one that they all have in common is they're inadequately capitalized. They don't have access to capital and sustainable, scalable revenue, because many of their revenue tactics they'll get them to survival. They use subsistence level strategies. They don't use high return on investment, scalable. They know how to raise $5,000 or $10,000. They don't know how to raise $500,000 or $5 million. So one of the first things we want is to teach them good revenue strategies. But what nonprofit leaders don't realize is your fundraising performance is not something over here. It's intimately connected with how you govern, with how you plan, with how you execute, how you communicate. You have to they all want to raise more money, but many leaders try to do isolated fixes or try a quick fix when you have to really design your entire organization to get to scale. So we often approach leaders with, hey, we can make you lots more money, but it's going to require a comprehensive end-to-end process that the book describes. It starts with performance benchmarking. You have to align your teams. You have to write a business plan. You have to test that with your stakeholders. You have to invest in a fundraising enterprise that's high return on investment, not low return. And then you have to execute with real discipline and focus. You have to have performance metrics and you have to have dashboards. This is sophisticated management stuff. And it's taught in business schools to for-profit entrepreneurs. It's not taught in colleges of education, colleges of social work, colleges of public policy, with a few exceptions. But nonprofit leaders they're subject matter experts. They get management and organizational training on the side, as I write about in the book. And there's a lot of information out there that's incomplete. They have to piece it together. So no one's written, as far as I know, concise end-to-end, do this first, then do this. And if you follow this pathway, it's not easy. It might take you 6, 9, 12 months, but it'll get you to breakthrough. We have to be looking organization-wide. How do we accelerate the organization, and how do we take a global look at creating the systems? We can't just do quick fixes. There's no tip and trick. You have to design your organization globally for scale, and that's not for everyone, right? I'll close by saying, who's it for? It's for organizations with leadership that's courageous, that's very optimistic, with a high degree of grit, of resilience, urgency, focus, and discipline, and the adaptive skills to learn and apply a new system. It's all hard. We don't sugarcoat that. But we also know that from years of doing this, there's many leaders out there that are eager to adopt this. I'm talking to a wonderful woman. She's a PhD, and she has a $500,000 nonprofit delivering mental health services to the community in Harlem, right? And she has no formal business training. And I talked to her on the phone a month ago, and she is just laser focused on learning these new skills. And 5 minutes of talking with this wonderful woman, I knew she had the grit, the resilience, and the focus to adopt this. She got a PhD in cognitive therapy. She can handle a small textbook on accelerating an organization. So I'm focusing on getting this message out to the leaders that are ready to hear it.
What do you think about larger nonprofits hiring CEOs from for-profit companies as a strategy for bringing in that business expertise?
It works until it doesn't. The famous story where it didn't work very well is the Red Cross, bringing in Gail McGovern, who lied to Congress, who fired 3/4 of the volunteers. God bless all the good people at the Red Cross doing the work, but ProPublica wrote, and I write about this in my book, I say business expertise is not a perfect answer for every organization. It has to come with humility, understanding of the social space. You have to have business expertise and social impact expertise. You can't come in and run an organization like a business, because there are key differences. And whenever you have that level of hubris and the lack of integrity that's so often associated with business people, the bad kind of business people, that doesn't work. I love when successful entrepreneurs with humility and integrity start nonprofits. I'm working for one of our clients right now and you'll hear about them soon, an incredibly powerful and effective global development organization, bringing people out of poverty, giving them education, solving their environmental problems, solving social inequity, a total community transformation. They started in 2018, and now today they're already transforming over 1 million lives. Incredible acceleration of an effectiveness that I've never seen before. And now they're not running it perfectly, but that's another example. The founder is an incredibly smart business person, but he also brings humility, and he also hired a lot of nonprofit experts to help him do it. So there's no simple answer of business expertise is good. I think management and finance and team building and organizational development expertise is essential. It has to be brought in with values, and it also has to be layered in with all of the nuance that comes with the social sector. I'll close by saying I write about in a book, many people get this wrong. Jim Collins is one of the world's foremost business experts. He wrote Good to Great by Choice. He teaches at Stanford. I'm sure you're familiar with him.
Yep.
He wrote Good to Great for the social sector, or somebody else wrote it. Got it totally wrong. And I'm still amazed at this. He said, business principles don't apply in the social sector because you can't pay your people top rates, which is totally wrong. And you can't fire people, and you have to rely on volunteers. And he went ahead to repeat a number of myths about the nonprofit sector, which are just not true. So there's so much myth, there's so much misinformation out there, and people hear these things and they make assumptions. And there's a lot of work to clear the noise out and give people a proven management system. It's not about acting like a business. It's about using effective practices, and we do our best to provide those.
I think one other point to also make for a successful organization, I've talked to a lot of small nonprofits over the last few weeks. And one of the common things that they always say is just keep going, even when you fall flat on your face, and just never give up, because you're going to run through all those obstacles. There's going to be times where you're like, why am I doing this? This is so hard. But all of them that were successful said, you just got to keep going.
Amen to that, brother. I had that, you know what? The same challenge here. And I wrote a post on LinkedIn that's getting thousands of views now where I made a confession. And this is a really painful confession for me. I'm one of the world's most effective social impact advisors. I have scaled up nonprofits to beat the band. I get average growth rates of 25% annually. I've catalyzed over $1 billion of new revenue for social impact in my career. I've had trouble scaling up my own impact. I've been trying it for 10 years, failed repeatedly, failure. And as I wrote in my LinkedIn confession, you marry the goal, but date the strategies. So I'm married to the idea of propagating my methodology and teaching this to more nonprofits, but I've never been able to scale past helping that small handful that could afford our fees because it's expensive. And I tried various things and they all failed. And I said, I'm dating all these strategies. And within 5 minutes, they throw the drink in my face and leave the restaurant. But I stuck to it and I followed my own advice, however painful it was, even though it's doctor heal thyself, cobbler's children have no shoes. I felt it professionally embarrassed, personally humiliated that I couldn't duplicate my own success. But I stuck at it. And it turns out what I needed to do was write this dang book. And writing this book was intensely difficult. It took me 10 years of study, 5 years of practice. But now, thank God, it's been on the bestseller list and the Amazon nonprofit since the day it came out. I'm getting people coming back and telling me it's helpful. And we've launched a low-cost accelerator platform that'll be a supportive community for people to apply the book's practices. And I'm not spiking the football here, but I'm starting to see a strategy that's finally winning. And I've been at this since 2013 with nothing but failure. Tenacity, don't quit, ever. That's what gets you there. And humility and trying something new, marrying the goal, date the strategy. But you got to learn, you got to work in your business and you got to work on the business. You got to deliver programs and services. You've got to keep the lights on, but then you have to be constantly, leaders have to figure out, how am I going to shape this organization so it works better? And that's why I want to provide this resource. But bottom line, it's hard. So let's stop beating ourselves up for failure. Failure is just data to improve your strategy.
Yep. I love that. Marry the goal, date the strategy. From somebody, if you can tell us a success story of somebody that's either read the book and implemented or gone through the nonprofit accelerator, or what's the name of the accelerator, the full name of the accelerator that you launched for a smaller nonprofit?
It's Altruist Accelerator, and it's ALTRUIST accelerator.org. I've only run 2 cohorts through it. It launches, this old model I had was old-fashioned, 10 weeks, and then pitch deck, demo day, and launch it. That doesn't scale. My new format is self-paced and community-oriented, so anyone can join and you can take your time with it and you get much richer support. So my accelerator model is also evolving. I'm dating a new strategy. And this one, I'm glad to say, is based on best practices going on. It's based on a program called Circle. It's community-powered learning, and I'm working with the world's top expert. Jordan Godby is an amazing guy, and we're building this learning community. The success stories we've already had with the accelerator, though we do have some very concrete success stories. My most exciting one is with an organization called the Global Coffee Platform. Now, most people don't know that the coffee you drink, half of the coffee beans worldwide are grown by farmers in poverty that don't even get living wages.
Hmm.
All that stuff about fair trade, none of that's worked. There's been decades of efforts to try to get global coffee farmers out of poverty, and we haven't gotten any traction. This is a $450 billion industry. It's the world's most popular beverage behind water, and it's unfair. So I took the global coffee platform and its 6 international affiliates in Vietnam, in Indonesia, in Honduras, Brazil, Uganda, and Kenya. Incredible leaders around the world at small NGO affiliates with no business training or informal business training, and certainly English is not their first language. We took them through an accelerator platform to great results. These people are brilliant. When you give them the tools, they can learn it. They produce business plans, financial projections, leading and lagging metrics, dashboards. This organization, under the brilliant leadership of Annette Pencil, headquartered in Germany, it's raised millions of new dollars, and it's delivering solutions. It's going to take a while for this to happen, but that's one of our success stories of the accelerator methodology, helping people around the world deliver vital solutions to hard social problems that haven't been fixed. We've got a couple other case studies. We have other case studies on our website. And I'm working now with that organization in Harlem I mentioned, another organization I'm working with, Digital Undivided, which is a business accelerator for women, Black women and Latino women. Outstanding organization under new leadership, great new CEO, Leah Williams, who's working with me and our accelerator methodology. We're accelerating an accelerator. It's very cool. So they're very sophisticated. They have an excellent audience. We've got AI for Life. It's a artificial intelligence institute formed by engineers at Microsoft that's trying to broaden access to AI creativity. We've got some fantastic organizations involved already. And the great thing is we can deliver all of this for, very little cost. It's a $79 a month fee when this launches versus tens of thousands of dollars a month for this type of sophisticated advice. And the best thing is it's scalable. We can bring in hundreds and then thousands of people to support each other and give each other feedback. And I'll close by saying the accelerator doesn't just give you the advice, it allows you to learn it so you can teach it to others. If you want to really learn something, I wasn't as strong a writer as I am now. Not that I'm the strongest writer, but I'm okay. I got a lot better when I taught grammar and writing to middle school students as an English teacher. When after college, I could write, but my writing had a lot of holes in it. It wasn't until I taught it to kids that I became pretty solid on the fundamentals. And we're designing the accelerator so people can learn this and teach it to others in their own organization and other organizations. I'm not trying to create scale. I want to create a movement. I want to create a movement of business management, execution savvy nonprofit leaders who use a proven toolkit and that can share it with other people. And hopefully we get some exponential growth here because the benefits are really well known.
Nice. You mentioned a couple times that one of the biggest impacts on an organization is the organizational culture, the positive organizational culture.
Oh.
What are like a practical steps that nonprofit leaders can take to foster a positive organizational culture?
Tom, I can tell you've worked with nonprofits before, that's for sure. The first practice in my book, you have to each practice in the book, and there's 50 of them divided over seven chapters, and all of them are critical. You have to get every practice right. Guess what the first practice is? Establish a growth mindset, right? You have
Amen.
to have a growth. What is a growth mindset versus a fixed or a stuck mindset? The book describes it, and it comes back to a basic expression. I believe it's Henry Ford who said it. Excellent business person, not a great human being, terrible, like many of us, there's bad mixed with good. Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're probably right.
Yep.
So growth mindset. And when there's a culture of poverty, a culture of martyrdom, when there's, we can't do this, I don't have the time, you're disqualified from scaling your social impact. I am sorry. Your mindset is your worst enemy. And some folks are Dougie Don'ts and Debbie Downers, and they're not going to get out of that. And if organizations, if there's key decision makers in organizations that are just pessimistic, that dog is not going to hunt.
I like that. How do you see technology shaping the future of social impact work? And is there any advice that you have for nonprofits in leveraging like different technology to make them more efficient?
I love this question. People keep you looking at technology like it's going to fix their problems.
Yep.
They're powerful tools, but if you don't know how to use the tools, forget about it.
Mhm.
People have great CRMs, but they don't do the training and they don't have the discipline. They don't use the right protocols in the CRM. So it's garbage in, garbage out, right? You can use social media to communicate all day, but if you don't have metrics-driven analytics around your acquisition messaging and you're not A/B testing your stuff, you can communicate all day long, you're shouting into the wind, right? Tools are only useful if you know how to use them. And the great thing about a nonprofit is we don't need a lot of technology. You need a really good business plan. You have to have sophisticated revenue strategy. You have to have focus and discipline. A lot of our small nonprofits, we get them started with spreadsheets. You need Google Docs and you need email. And it's all about building relationships and being able to pass due diligence with sophisticated investors and supporting your people and having a good culture and executing with precision, making sure that every time you deliver your services, you're using evidence-based practices. Technology can enhance all this stuff. And there's a lot of hullabaloo now about AI, of course, and some of it's really cool. I love my AI note taker, right? That's a game changer for me because I've got my hard disk is full. So when I have a phone call, so some technologies like plug and play. But we need to stop looking at the next technological revolution and start looking at our basic fundamental organizational practices, which are predate. You get those right and you'll be able to use technology effectively, but technology is not a Band-Aid.
What strategies do you recommend for nonprofit leaders to stay resilient and adapting during these uncertain times, to keep growing and scaling so that they don't lose momentum?
Leaders need support. It's a really hard job. And if they do it right, they can get it from their team and their board. If they really open themselves and support each other in their organizations and don't isolate themselves and don't use their authority negatively, first of all, acknowledge to your organizations that you don't have all the answers and that you're going to need help and that we're collaborating. And of course, the CEO is the final decision maker. But organizational culture is the first thing that can be self-sustaining. And you can have a regenerative organizational culture, or you can have an extractive, a draining one. And I write in my book, how do you react to negative information? Do you try to encapsulate it or suppress it? Or do you have a culture of inquiry? Do you establish psychological safety where people can express concerns and without fear of reprisal? Or do you shoot the messenger? So the first thing, most leaders out of fear and mostly out of inexperience think they've got to be a top-down CEO. And the opposite is true. Again, most nonprofit leaders haven't read the management literature. So learn about how to be a level 5 leader by Jim Collins. His for-profit stuff applies beautifully to nonprofits. And I offer a lot of resources in my book. That's number one. Treat your organization like a regenerative ecosystem. Don't pee in your own pool. Number two, seek support with other CEOs. Seek support of your board. Seek mentorships from. Here's the thing that most nonprofit leaders, the most powerful advice they can get is from for-profit entrepreneurs who have successfully scaled companies and know how hard it is, right? The most valuable, there's not an entrepreneur out there. There's a small set of narcissistic and entrepreneurs that got lucky and hit their first company and now they think their sweat doesn't stink. You don't want advice from those. You want advice from people who have failed as much as they've won. Out of the 50 or 100 companies that I've scaled, I've also been booted out of my fair share of board meetings because I screwed up. I've learned everything I know by making mistakes, like we all do. Nobody's perfect. So if nonprofit leaders can get advice from truly intellectually humble, but deeply experienced and professional entrepreneurs, those people belong on their boards. It's not all who should be on their boards, but so many nonprofit executives don't have those seasoned entrepreneurs on their boards. So they're not getting that mentorship and advice. Finally, again, I hope I'm not overselling the accelerator, but I'm trying to create a whole supportive community because there's massive gaps. CEOs don't get support. Executive staff, even nonprofit staff don't get the community support that they need in an affordable, accessible manner. So that's also, again, I hope I'm not overplugging it, but that's what the altruistaccelerator.org aims to provide this very deserving audience.
Very nice. And final question, what's on the horizon for Altruistic Partners and any upcoming projects, initiatives we can all look forward to?
I've just started. I took on a client this week with one of the most exciting international development initiatives I've ever come across. It's called the Round Glass Foundation. You can look that up. They're doing incredible work. Their founder, Sunny Singh, is a business genius with a giant heart. He embodies all the values that I talked about. I'm very excited to be working with them. I'm delighted to be working with Digital Undivided. We're working with clients in sustainability. So however hard this work is, what's been sustaining me and my partners for over almost 20 years now is the fact that we love our clients and we get to work with some of the most exciting entrepreneurs. Beyond that, I'm delighted, as I said earlier, to actually have a way that we could deliver this methodology at low cost. The book is one way. As I tell people, the book is basically it's a very clear, very concise and concrete instruction manual for driving an F1 car. And if you haven't driven a race car before, you're going to have a hard time reading all those buttons on the steering wheel. Even with an instruction manual, you're going to need some help and support. And particularly when it comes to driving the car around a track. Now, a seasoned entrepreneur has picked my book up and go, yep, that's the playbook. Seen this before. You did a good job expressing all the steps. If you haven't grown a company at rapid scale before, you're going to need help and support. And again, that's what we're trying to do. So I'm very excited about finally being able to scale everybody else's nonprofits. We're going to try and scale up my own. And that will really, I'm going to spend the rest of the time that I'm able to walk and breathe and think straight. I'm going to be spending on that.
That's amazing. And I encourage everybody to go out and get a copy of Scaling Altruism. And I think it's the perfect framework for scaling your nonprofit. I'm assuming we can find this on Amazon and in bookstores. Where else can people go to learn more about your accelerator program, purchase the book, any other information that you provide that they might find beneficial?
All you have to do is Google Scaling Altruism or you have to Google Altruist Accelerator, and it's Altruist Accelerator, oneword.org. There's a sign-up list. We're taking on our first 100 clients. I think we're about 50 so far, so we're about halfway there. It's going to launch in June. If you want an opportunity to be one of the first organizations to join the community, sign up. And yeah, read the book. My personal email address is in the book. Send me an email. Our LLC, our consulting firm, is on altruistpartners.com. That's where we come on as fractional executives. And we have one or two more slots. We're full up on that. So we're really trying to scale on the nonprofit side. But I'm just delighted I'm still able to do this work. I consider myself incredibly fortunate to be able to work with social change makers. And certainly trying to scale up any organization, boy, it keeps you humble. You got to be ready to just get punched in the nose and wipe yourself off and keep going. You made that great point earlier, Tom.
It sounds like you're making a huge impact in the world, and I'm sure everybody that you come in contact with leaves a little bit more inspired. Donald Summers, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And everybody go out and buy a copy of Scaling Altruism and go ahead and check out the Altruism Accelerator and help take your nonprofit to the next level.
Tom, thanks for having me. Thanks for all you do to make the world a better place. You have certainly a ton of social impact. We all are grateful to you for your work in the sector. So it's been an honor to be with you here today. Thanks again.
Thanks, Al. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the $1 Million Nonprofit Podcast. You're here. That means you're ready to take your nonprofit to the next level and make greater impact. Come visit me at realtomkelly.com/playbooks to download free playbooks that your nonprofit can use to start scaling to $1 million in donations, plus much more. Catch the new behind-the-scenes insights in the next episode, and until then, here's to the impact you will make. I'm Tom Kelly. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and encourage others to listen.